Hi, New Life. I'm Alex DeRosa. I'm our lead pastor here, and with me is...
I'm Matt Bartlett, our Director of Student Ministries.
That's why I'm wearing our New Life Students t-shirt right now.
Perfect shirt.
Today we're wrapping up our video series where we're talking about developing relationships, discovering stories, and discerning next steps with our ones. And throughout these last couple weeks, we've gone through each of those categories at length, and we just wanted to wrap it up by talking about them a little bit more once again. But if you are here and you're watching with us, I'd encourage you to engage with us. So down below in the comments, please put down maybe what is the next step that you're going to be asking your one to take, or maybe even something that you learned throughout this that you didn't know before. And if you'd like to even put down maybe a way that we could be praying and supporting you, anything. We just want to engage with you as we walk through this process, because although the videos are ending, we pray that this process of helping our ones come to know Jesus does not end. We want to continue doing this. And during the month of May, specifically May 14th through May 31st, we are pulling back from a lot of our activities at New Life to give each of us room and margin in our schedules to do this. And so let's talk a little bit about developing relationships, and then discovering stories, and then discerning next steps, and then we'll leave it to each of us to go and do this in the world. Matt, do you want to share a little bit about developing relationships?
Yeah. So when we are developing relationships, one of the things that I've found helpful, especially over this time where we've been really intentional with it, is asking really specific questions about what's going on in their life, which seems kind of counterintuitive, because you're just getting to know them. But generally speaking, people don't share more information than they're comfortable with. So if you ask that kind of question, if you ask a question that they're not comfortable with, or they don't want to answer right now, they might say, I don't know if I want to answer that right now. Or they might change the subject. More likely than not, they're going to answer it though, which gives you a little more insight into what's going on in their life. So don't be afraid to ask a little bit of a deeper question. Maybe not leading off with that, like, hi, my name is Matt. What is your deepest, darkest secret, right? That's probably not the best way to start. But you can get into that within a couple of questions. Remember, I like that you get really at the source of what somebody's going through by the third why. So ask an open-ended question, then you can start to drill down a little bit deeper. Don't be afraid to go deep though. People are willing to share more than we oftentimes are.
Yeah. For me, developing relationships, the biggest thing that keeps standing out to me is it takes time. It just takes time. Like, relationships don't happen overnight. And so maybe don't beat yourself up if this is the very beginning of relationships with your ones. That's okay. Like, it takes time, and that's okay. So as we move on to discovering stories, I thought Pastor Barry a couple weeks ago did a fantastic job of giving us some questions, some helpful hints of how do we do that. And so I have the little outline with us today. And so I just wanted to walk through them again. So he said, do you live in the area? How did you decide on that spot, or what led you there? So as Pastor Barry was saying, that is a question that is a nice icebreaker for people. Like, how did you get here? Maybe you've lived here all your life, and that just shows so much of someone's story. Or they say, no, I just moved here. And then easy follow-up question is, why did you move here? And sometimes people don't want to share all that stuff, but most of the time, it's a cool story that you get to hear and interact with.
Let me ask you a question here.
Okay.
What keeps you busy? Do you have any hobbies?
I love hobbies, and I have a couple big hobbies. I have board games, which right now I'm running a board game auction to help support people in Myanmar, and so it's a charity thing. And then I also love basketball. Unfortunately, the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost a couple games in the playoffs. We'll see if they bounce back. Fun fact, we're recording this before the day that it's coming out, so we'll see how the Cavs are doing. Hopefully they're doing better than they were doing today. And yeah, so the couple hobbies. But I could honestly, Matt just asked that question kind of in jest because we're going through it on the weekends. Pastor Barry suggested that sort. But honestly, I could go on for an easy hour about my hobbies, and most people can as well. You get someone talking about something they like, and even if you don't like it that much, there's some questions. My wife does a great job at this. She doesn't care about my hobbies the way that I care about them, but she cares about me. So she asks me questions about them, and it gets me excited and gets me talking. So it's a good thing to do with our ones. Let's see, what was the next question that Barry brought up? Do you have any plans for the year? I think that's a good one. Matt, do you have any plans for the year? I do have plans for the year. We're planning on taking a vacation. Nothing real big, but we're going to take the kids away in August sometime when the summer is kind of over and we're slowing down right before school.
So that's the big plan. The big plan for the year. Also, I mean, I'm going to Honduras to serve with our partner churches there. So I'm excited about that. That's a pretty big plan. We have a lot of good stuff going on.
That's pretty cool, because even in that interaction, I found out that he has kids, and then I found out that he's gone on a mission trip. And so that's a cool way. So if you ask someone, hey, what's your plans for this year? And they ask you back, and you're going on a mission trip, or you're serving in some way at the church or whatever like that, then you can share, and that can bring them to what we're going to talk about next, which is we can discern next steps. And so as we flow in from discovering stories to discerning next steps, you can kind of just combine all of these things. I mean, even when we were talking about developing relationships, Matt talked about questions that you ask, and you learn some about people's stories when you're developing relationships. So these aren't just like, today is about relationships, tomorrow's about stories, the next day is about discerning next steps. It can all kind of flow in. So for instance, if we're kind of playing this out, if Matt and I work together, which we do work together, funny enough, and I ask him like, hey, Matt, how was your weekend? And he might say something about church potentially. So okay, let's play that out. So Matt, Mr. Bartlett, how was your weekend?
It was good. It rained, so I didn't get to cut the grass.
That is nice. I like that.
I did get to go to church. Me and my family went, and it was pretty good.
And saying something like that isn't intrusive. It's not pushing your faith on someone. It's not being like, hey, do you want to trust in Jesus right this moment too? It is simply a way to bring the discussion up. And now if you want to take a next step from that answer, you could simply ask something like, do you go to church somewhere? Or maybe even less offensive, maybe, where do you go to church? Because if you're assuming that of someone, a lot of times they're not like offended by that. They might just go, oh, I don't go to church anymore. And I've had that answer from people like, oh, I don't currently go anywhere. I used to go somewhere. And then the cool question, the follow up with that is, why? So not only are you discovering stories, but then you have an option to ask them to take a next step of, hey, well, if you'd ever want to come to church, so that's what I do. Like I always say, like, hey, well, you're always welcome to come to New Life. I'd love for you to come if you ever want to come, you and your family. And then I keep that in the back of my head. So whenever we have like Christmas or Easter, when people are kind of looking, maybe they'll go somewhere. And sometimes I even send them a link to a video. Like, hey, like I spoke last weekend on this topic. I think you might like it. And I'll just send you the YouTube link. And if you want to watch it, you can. And so that's a nice way to help someone take next steps that come right out of the relationships and discovering stories. So I hope these series, these videos have helped you in some ways to reach your ones. And so together, let us continue reaching the lost for Jesus, helping people come to know him by developing relationships and discovering stories and discerning next steps. And let us do that together so God's kingdom comes to earth. Thanks for watching.